Sons of King. Sons of King.
Bless you, brother.
King.
And what is our destiny? To be in this truth. Be in this truth and to make it to the end. As it is written, to finish the work. Like Yahweh Shai said. Have finished the work. You know? The Apostle Paul said the same thing. Henceforth I know there's a crown of righteousness that is laid up for him. Okay, that is our destiny.
But ye shall be named the priests of the Lord. Men shall call you the ministers of our God. Ye shall eat the riches of the Gentiles, and in that glory shall ye boast yourselves. For your shame ye shall have double, and for confusion they shall rejoice in their portion. Therefore in their land they shall possess the double, everlasting joy shall be unto them. For I the Lord love judgment, I hate robbery for burnt offering. And I will direct their work in truth, and I will make an everlasting covenant with them. And their seed shall be known among the Gentiles, and their offspring among the people. All that see them shall acknowledge them, that they are the seed which the Lord hath blessed. I will greatly rejoice in the Lord. My soul shall be joyful in my God. For he hath clothed me with the garments of salvation, he hath covered me with the robe of righteousness, as a bridegroom decketh himself with ornaments, and as a bride adorneth herself with her jewels. For as the earth bringeth forth her bud, and as the garden causeth the things that are sown in it to spring forth, so the Lord God will cause righteousness and praise to spring forth before all the nations.
Sons of King. King. Sons of King.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Rukakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers. And peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful look out there pushing this word in truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Rukakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers. And peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful look out there pushing this word in truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Rukakwadash, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. All right, what I want to get into with this lesson, it is what it is, and it comes from a scripture I was reading in the NLT in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 6, verse 10. I'll go ahead and pull it up. All right, and this is saying in the world it is what it is. The brother, the beloved brother, all right, Waters are down in Bay St. Louis, all right, on Mississippi Gulf Coast. He said it is what it is, it ain't what it ain't. I remember the first time hearing that, from that brother a couple years ago, and it stuck with me. But when you go into Ecclesiastes 6 and 10, it plainly states, hey, just to say it in layman terms, it is what it is, and it ain't what it ain't. because everything is predetermined by Yahweh Bashim Shai. That's why you'll have to wonder, like, how can somebody be prideful? Now, we know knowledge, puff it up, so pride, can seep in, as we, learn more. All right. And the Lord, dealing, and we can get, in the spirit of being puffed up. Okay. But it's precepts like this, that really, should humble, should make us humble. Okay. Because understanding that it's not nothing that we've earned, it's because of the Lord's goodness. If we are of the elect, it's because of the Lord's goodness. There's nothing that we're owed, there's nothing that we're entitled to. It's all because of the Lord's goodness. You understand he's the power that created an existence for us to be chosen in. Okay, existence had to be created. The concept of existence had to be created. All right, for us to even be chosen in. Okay, so when it comes to Yahweh Bashim Shai, no one can be proud. No ruler, no matter how great his rulership was, or his record, a king, like a warrior king, his record on the battlefield, and et cetera, and wealth. You see what he was able to conquer, his administrative, accomplishments. Okay, so forth and so on. Any engineer, scientist, inventor, anything. Okay, anything, man. It's all of Yahweh Bashim Shai. It was already predetermined. Okay, so when you go into Ecclesiastes 6 and 10, everything has already been decided. Okay, and we're going to show this in the scripture. Everything is decided. Okay, on the left and on the right. Okay, it was known long ago what each person would be. So there's no use arguing with the Most High about your destiny, man. Let's read that again. Everything has already been decided. It was known long ago what each person would be. So there's no use arguing with the Most High about your destiny. You see, and that's Ecclesiastes 6 and 10. Okay, in the NLT. Okay, so everything has already been decided. All right, Esau, it was decided that he was going to be the wicked, and there's nothing he can do. Okay, that's why, as we mature and understand these things, it's a complete waste of time, because you still got people 2026, okay, still with the hope, all right, that Esau gonna do right. Okay, if they protest enough, okay, if they make enough videos exposing Esau, and if they bring particular things out on them, and the Epstein file, whether Esau still gonna be Esau, he don't give a damn. That's how he's built. Okay, the Lord decided for this nigga to be like he is, man. Okay, but his rulership has an end. That's our hope is in the Lord's, all right, predetermined, okay, decision to end this man's rulership. You see, everything is predetermined. All right. And when you read the scripture where it explains the things that are predetermined. All right. So let's go here. Let's get a couple precepts to show you that E gonna be E. The elect gonna be the elect. 2/3 gonna be the 2/3, man. Okay. Ain't no getting around it. That's why the Lord told us don't waste our time trying to teach these niggas that don't get it. Okay, their fate is already decided. Their destiny is already decided. There ain't no point of wasting time with someone whose destiny is already decided. He told Ezra, look, focus on those that's like you. Okay, that think like you, that believe like you. Okay, you have a predestined elect. You see, so when you go to Jeremiah 13 and 23. Okay, Jeremiah 13:23 says, can an Ethiopian change his skin, or the leopard his spots? Then may ye also do good that are accustomed, all right, to do evil. Okay, so you are what you are. All right, the Edomite is the Edomite. There's nothing that can be done about that. Okay, He has his destiny. It's already determined. Esau's playing it out. You know, Esau's destiny was to rule in wickedness with the sword. Okay, bring push rebellion in the earth, deception. You know, all these things were described in the Bible of him to do it, and he's did it, doing it, and getting ready to do it. You see, he was meant to bring forth this third world war. He was meant to bring the world to a third world war. Okay, he was meant to push a technocracy, to attempt to pull off a technocracy, man. All right, which will make him have to mandate a MOTB, all right, microchip, man. He was meant to do that. Okay, there's no righteousness in Esau, none. Okay, he wasn't. That ain't his destiny. Righteousness is not in his card. He doesn't have that card to play. You know, people are still in hopes in 2026. Oh, this nigga doing right, man. No, that's not in his cards, man. He don't have a righteous card to lay on the table. It's not in his deck. Okay, so let's go from there. Let's get some more. Let's go to Jeremiah. Matter of fact, so we in Jeremiah. Let's get Jeremiah 10 and 23. This book of Jeremiah, chapter 10 and verse 23. It says, "O Lord, I know the way of man is not in himself. It is not, all right, it is not in man that walketh to direct his steps." Okay? So the way of a man is not in himself. Okay? The way of the man is of the Lord. Okay? Because we didn't decide, okay, to come into the truth. You know, the Lord set it up. He directed our steps to the truth, man. Okay? He's directing Esau's steps to his failure. Okay? The Lord set that up. You see, it's the Lord that directed the steps of men, all right, to fulfill his will. You see, and as we understand these things, man, pride, you should throw pride out like Uncle Phil. You should throw jazz, and wheel out. Pride should be out the door, man. You see, understanding these things, man. You see, we're in the flesh, and but they should be easily checked, man, as we understand these things. So let's see what it's saying, some more translations. We'll get that. This is Jeremiah 10 and 23 in the NLT. It says, "I know, Lord, that our lives are not our own. We are not able to plan our own course." You see that? We can have intentions. You see, we can have agendas of our own. Okay, but if it doesn't align with the will of the Lord doesn't allow it to happen. And that's why, I know, speaking for myself personally, man, I always leave room, because there's nothing wrong with planning and having things planned out and, certain things, you got, mapped out. There's nothing wrong with that, being proactive. And, you see, there's nothing wrong with it. Okay. But what I'm learning more than ever is that we always got to leave room, all right, for the Lord, because we can find ourselves trying to force our will, force our agenda and make it happen. And nah, man, you got to listen to the Spirit when the Spirit is, saying change or the Spirit, wants something else, man. Hey, obey the Spirit. You see? Because that's the Lord plan, obey, all right, the Spirit, So at the end of the day, when we see everything that we see happening, that's a confidence in itself too, that everything is happening according to the will of the Lord, is already predestined to happen. So Esau is not doing nothing, all right, it's not within, his predetermined destiny. Okay. Esau's not going to win. It's not in his destiny to win. We constantly are reminded that this nigga lose, man. Okay? The Lord constantly shows us that this nigga's getting ready to lose, man. Okay? When you go to Proverbs 20 and 24, Okay, let's get this Proverbs 20 and 24. It says, a man's goings are of the Lord. How can a man then understand his own way? Okay, because there's no way that we can sit here and understand everything that we're going to do, all right, for the rest of our life. Okay, there's no way that we can understand. The Lord has all type of twists and turns that come, you know. That's why sometimes you find yourself in a situation you like, you, and you know it's the Lord because you couldn't have planned this. You know, we couldn't have planned, there's certain things that we plan and the Lord allowed to happen, which that's still his will. He put the idea and the thoughts in our mind, and allowed us to execute. And then there's things that, the Lord just like he thrust you in certain situations and circumstances. You like, man, I couldn't plan this. Okay, and that's just the Lord showing that he is. you know, then it's a comforting thing. Okay, because that means that everything that's written in the scriptures, all the prophecy, well, the Lord going to do it. And that's also when we get in situations when, we can't see a way out, especially in Jacob's trouble. We're going to be in, circumstances that going to look dire, but we know that He is. We don't need to understand the full plan in every situation for the Lord to do what He going to do. Okay, that's what comes to just trusting, man. Just trusting our power. Okay, because He is already predestined. You see, even when you go to the book of Romans, dealing with Jacob and Esau. Okay. Let's go to Psalms first. Then we go to Romans. We get a few other Psalms. This is on Psalm 75:4. So I said unto the fools, deal not foolishly, and to the wicked, lift not up the horn. And this is speaking to Esau. It said, lift not on high, speak not with a stiff neck. And see, Esau in his mind, he thinks there is something within him that has him in power. He think he has some type of insight, some type of, secret wisdom. Okay, his weaponry, his witchcraft, and he's all right in his mind. He's the one that put himself in power. He's the one that keeping himself in power. And that's what's making him have a stiff neck. And that's what has Esau thinking that he can do things that's beyond his capability. Okay, because he gives all credit to himself. All right, for his power, his wealth, his authority, his influence. He gives that credit to himself. Okay, and that's what makes him have a stiff neck. Rebellious. And can't be told a goddamn thing. And in his mind, he thinks that he's able to do things that he's not capable of doing. And as we really look at this nigga, we can see that this nigga is delusional, man. What he's trying to pull off, this nigga is delusional, man. Okay? This nigga do not got it all together, man. I'm going to keep saying it. Okay? This nigga do not got it all together, man. Okay? This nigga be guessing and a lot of shit. There's certain things, that he's privy to. And even then, the Lord allowed this man to pull particular things off so he can have a stiffness, so he can speak with pride. Because pride go before destruction. The Lord hate pride. Okay? So the Lord created Esau with all this pride in him. Okay? So he can hate that nigga, man. And then destroy that nigga. Esau was just a case study, man, of how not to be. Okay? And the Lord's going to make a global example out of this nigga, man. Okay? Verse 6, it said, for promotion coming neither from the east, nor from the west, nor from the south, but the Most High as the judge. He put it down one and set up another. Yeah, so it's the Most High. Okay? The judges who should be in power. These things have to be ordained in the heaven. Okay? Now, like I said, I like history, and I go into, you can, brothers, let's into the history. We be talking and we talk about, certain battles and, certain strategies and this and that. But one thing we know, it was all the will of the Lord. Okay. Because when you go into, especially these nations prophesy, when you go into the Syrian Empire, the Babylonians, all right, the Medo-Persian, the Greeks, the Romans, when you go into those transitional power, okay, you can see, all right, that the Lord set it up. It was like it was, like the game was rigged. When it was time for the Babylonians to take down the Assyrians, it was like the game was rigged for the Babylonians. When it was time for the Medo-Persian to take down the Babylonians, like the game was rigged for the Medo-Persian. Okay, and when you go into the Greeks taking down the Persians, it's like the game was rigged for the Greeks. Okay, from the Greeks to the Romans, same thing. Okay, why? Because there's a higher power that's intervening in the affairs of men. Okay, and all these wise strategies by these, particular generals, well, that's all the will of the Lord. Okay, the Lord, the scriptures say how the Most High sealeth man with their instructions when they sleep. Okay, so every strategy, every scheme, every move, every chess move, they bring these certain nations to empire. Well, it's the Lord behind it. Okay, no one's working independently outside the will of Yahweh Bashim Al-Shah. Okay, everything is working for, all right, the will of the Lord. Okay, that was already predestined. You see, Alexander, Julius Caesar, okay, King David, you see, Julius Maccabees, and all these things were predetermined. Okay, on the left and the right, amongst Israel, amongst the heathen, everything was predetermined. Okay, and they played out just how the Lord wanted them to play out. Okay, because he put it down one and set it up another. No one can stop that process. Okay, what empire will want to fall? Okay, what empire, is not, you gotta understand these people, when you're in rulership, man, you got people dedicated to keeping the power structure afloat. Okay, but it's the Lord that determines that, man. When you go from this nation rule from such and such BC to this such and such BC, well, guess what? It was already predestined. The exact date of empire and the exact date of collapse is already predestined, man. That's why we know it's just a matter of days. It's just a matter of, it's a countdown to the end of Esau. Okay, let's go here to the book of Romans. Dealing with this nigga Esau was just a countdown. All right, so when you go to the book of Romans, chapter 9, all right, it started at verse 11. It says, "For the children being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil, that the purpose of the Most High, according to election, might stand, not of works, but of him that calleth. And who is him that calleth? The Most High. So the children being not yet born, it was already determined, neither having done any good or evil. So before the children were born, their destinies were set. That's why the Lord told Rebekah, all right, 2 nations are in our womb. It was predestined that these would be 2 nations of people. Okay, and these 2 nations would be rivals, man. Okay, and all right, these 2 children will be the chosen people, man, which is, all right, Jacob, Israel. Okay, it was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger. So it was already predestined that at the end of this thing was we at now. Okay, that's why the end of Esau's kingdom is him going into slavery unto Jacob. It was already predestined. And nothing Esau can do to reverse that, man. That's why he's looking tacky as hell, because he's fighting against the will of the Lord. And that's why, because like going back to even on a lower level in our day to day, When we fight against the will of the Lord, we be looking tacky as hell. Speaking from experience. You see, when we try to go against the will of the Lord. There you go, man. We try to go against the will of the Lord, man. We be looking tacky as hell, man. Okay, and this is what we're seeing on global scale with Esau. He's trying to go against the will of the Lord, all right, and extend his kingdom. Okay, and he's looking tacky. Okay, he's weary. Okay, he's all over the place. Okay, looking goofy out here, man. You see, trying to go against the will of the Lord. Because you finna go into captivity, nigga. You finna lose your kingdom and go into captivity. That's it. We could shut down the live screen, man. Nigga, you finna lose your kingdom and go into captivity, man. This how this finna go. Okay. Now we go into the details. Okay, but that's the gist of what this nigga at, man. Esau, man. Okay. It says, as it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. And that's Esau's destiny to be hated by the Most High. I will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. Okay? Everything that the Lord hates, when you go into Proverbs 6 and 16, Esau embodies those things. A proud look, a man that calls swift to run the mischief. Okay? A man that calls strife between brethren. Okay, etc., etc. You read it, where everything that the Lord hates, and that's an abomination to him. Esau embodies those things, man, because this nigga was created for the Lord to hate that nigga, man. Okay, and if you feel some type of way, man, hey, look, this ain't for you, man. Okay, now there's things that we have to grow to understand. All right, and if you offended and you feel some type of way about the Most High when you hear that, then this ain't for you, man. Hey, pray for understanding, stick around, listen. It'll come to you if it's meant for you, man. When people hear those things and, get to smacking their lips and breathing hard, and, man, what the Most High, man, see, that ain't right. It is right. Everything the Lord do is right. Okay? He has a purpose way beyond, your Western perception of existence, man. Okay, here it is. You're in Western culture arguing about, should a trans play women's sports, a trans woman play women's sports, or what bathroom to go to? Okay, or calling one person them. Okay, you in the Western society arguing about that, but then you want to question the will of the Most High, nigga. Get out of here. Okay. Verse 14 said, what shall we say then? Is there unrighteousness with the Most High? The Most High forbid. Okay? Is there unrighteousness with the Most High? Nah, man. Everything the Lord do is right because he has a way high purpose. Okay? Than the emotions of men. Okay? For he said to Moses, I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. You see that? It's already determined. Okay, who the Lord's going to have mercy on is already determined. Who he's going to have compassion on, it's already determined. Okay, verse 16. So then it is not of him that willeth, nor of him that runneth, but of the Most High that showeth mercy. Man, it's about the Lord who wants to show mercy. That's why if you're 2/3, there's no checklist that you can perform and become one of the elect. There's no obstacle course that you can, you see, that you can accomplish, that you can, you make it through a certain obstacle course, and now you of the elect. Nah, if you go to 2/3, there's nothing you can do to get in. You can't cross over to be a 1/3. And if you're we're of the elect, we can't cross over and be a 2/3, man. Now, with that being said, that doesn't mean that, you could just be carefree because it's a chance of you of the elect. On the contrary, if we are the elect, we got to double down and for sure be on point. Because if we get out of pocket and we want to hope for elect, the Most High break our ass up, man. Speaking from experience, going through it personally and watching. You know, like God damn. You see, like if you are the elect and we get out of pocket and you know get the slacking and you know put this thing on cruise control, hey, the Most High got a heavy hand. Okay, and he'll take the hopeful elect down through there to get them back on track, to get us back on track, man. Okay, so just because you know it's predestined, don't mean it's sweet. Okay, the Lord got expectation, man. What the scripture say to whom much is given, much is required. Okay, the elect got a different sacrifice than everybody else, man. Okay, there's a certain level of commitment that the Lord requires of the elect, man. You know, certain level of affliction, man, that the Lord requires. You see, but there's a reward that outweighs, you know, these temporary situations, man. Okay, verse 17 said, "For the scripture saying to Pharaoh, even for the same purpose have I raised thee up, that I might show my power in thee, and that my name might be declared throughout all the earth." Okay, that my name might be declared throughout all the earth, man. So you go back to ancient Pharaoh, the Lord intentionally puffed that nigga up, man. Made that nigga proud, made that nigga rebellious against, you know, the Lord. You go into Pharaoh, you know, that nigga talking crazy. When Moses came to Pharaoh and told him, "Thus said Yahweh," you know, uh, Pharaoh, just to say it verbatim, he said, who is Yahweh? That I should listen to him and let y'all go. You know? And then he told Moses and Aaron, he said, basically, you know, in layman terms, like y'all niggas got too much free time. You know, that's why he told the Egyptian taskmasters, man, look, don't give them niggas no materials, don't have their materials ready for them. You know, them niggas got so much time, you know, to come try to check me. Let them get their own materials and tell them we want the same output. You know, let them go gather their own material. You know, so the nigga got energy to come check me. Yeah, they can see you know, this black ass Hamite proud as hell, man. Okay. But yeah, man, you know, yeah, Pharaoh, you can read Exodus, man. Okay, matter of fact, let's get it. You know, hey, this is what we do. It's our book. You know, let's get it. It's Exodus 5. All right. It says, and afterward, Moses and Aaron went in and told Pharaoh, "Thus said the Lord, power of Israel." All right, Lord in all caps. So he's saying the name Yahweh. Okay. It says, "Let my people go, that they may hold a feast unto me in the wilderness." And Pharaoh said, "Who is, all right, the Lord? Who is Yahweh, that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I know not the Lord, neither will I let Israel go." Okay, so this nigga was way out of pocket, but the Lord predestined. The Lord wanted this nigga proud. The Lord hate pride. Okay, so the Lord made this nigga be proud. Okay, because he already knew his intentions for Pharaoh. And all right, in the Egyptian Empire. Okay. It says verse 3, it says, "But Aaron and Moses persisted. The power of the Hebrews has met with us." All right, this is in the NLT, Exodus 5 and 3. They declared, "So let us take a 3-day journey into the wilderness so we can offer sacrifices to the Lord our power. If we don't, he will kill us with a plague or with the sword." Pharaoh replied, "Moses and Aaron, why are you distracting the people from their work tasks? Get back to work." You know? So he's like, "Look, nigga, y'all distracting the workers with this foolishness. Okay? Talking about such and such and told you to tell me to let y'all niggas go. Nigga, get back to work, nigga." Okay? You see? So yeah, you read this account. All right, it's a pretty good account, you know. Well, it just shows you the pride of Pharaoh when you really read it. You know, you can read it in NLT. It's a little more plainer, but you read that whole chapter, man, that nigga, they was proud, man. You know, but the Lord wanted that nigga proud. The Lord wanted that nigga heart. And Esau, he's in the same boat. When we look at Esau, man, this is what the Lord did to Pharaoh, man. He hardened that nigga, man. All right, because the Lord wants to show that power. All right, so he need Esau to be this rebellious, proudful, wicked nigga in rulership, man. Okay, because the Lord judges rulership way harsher than he judges, all right, the common man. When you go into the scriptures, Wisdom of Solomon 6, you read in the G&T, it's a good read on how the Lord deals with, those in power. Okay, it said, therefore, have he mercy on whom he will have mercy, and whom he will, he hardened, man. So it's all to the will of the Lord. It's already predestined. Okay? It's already predestined. Everybody's role. If you're a scoffer, you are predestined to be a scoffer, you're gonna be a scoffing ass nigga. If you predestined to be a false prophet, okay, that's what you're gonna be. You gonna you see, now Moses, now the thing is Moses fell out the truth. I think this ISUPK is pushing that Moses fell out the truth. Okay. And Satan just keep giving these guys new material, to run with. You see? Moses, man. Okay. So this is Romans 9:19 said, thou wilt say unto me, why doth he yet find fault? For who have resisted his will? Showing you that no one can resist the will of the Lord. Even if it seems like you're resisting what's what the Lord wanted that. All right, just so he can show you something. That's why even it's certain things that you do things, you be like, now that's not even me. Like, why did I even do that? Because the Lord wanted to take us through certain situations. So certain times the Lord causes us to, have a lapse in judgment, just so he can show us something. That's how the Lord operate, man. As we mature, it's just like a child, as he get older, he learned the tendencies of his father. That's why there's certain things with, like, you have a lapse in judgment because you used to be on point. But for some reason, it was a lapse in judgment this time. And, you go through a little situation, then it's like, oh, this way he was trying to show me something. Because it ain't about the situation, be about what the Lord be wanting to show us, man. We had them lapse in judgment, like, dang. You see? And it says, oh yeah, Romans 9:20, and then he's going into Isaiah 29:16. Romans 9:20 said, nay, but old man, who art thou that replies against the Most High? Shall the thing formed say to him that formed it, why hast thou made me thus? Yeah, so what can the creation say to the creator? Okay, what can, as we are a creation, what response can we have to the creator? Because you can argue, man, why you make me an Israelite? Why you make me an Edomite? You can argue. Okay, just like Jake talking about some, I left off from being a Hebrew Israelite. No, you didn't. If you're a Hebrew Israelite by lineage, you can't leave off from that. You can say you could not claim it, but you can't leave off from that. You Jake to have these. This is why I left the Hebrew Israelites. I'm no longer an Israelite. Yes, you are. Okay, you don't believe. Okay, you're an Israelite that don't believe, but you're an Israelite. Okay. You can't argue against it. Okay, it don't matter why you left. All right, we know it's some bugged out groups that be on particular things, etc., etc. You see, but this whole thing, I'm not an Israelite anymore. Yes, you are. You don't make that call. That ain't your call to make. Okay, you see, that's what people don't understand. See, they live in this delusional ass society. Okay, well, you think that you're a man, but you can choose to be a woman. That's not your call. Okay, that's why it's a bunch of madness when you try to execute on that decision, trying to transform from a man to a woman or vice versa, man. That's why it's all these complications that come with it, because you're trying to argue against the Most High. You don't make that call. Esau can't make that call, man. Okay? It says, have not the potter power over the clay of the same lump to make one vessel unto honor, and the vessel of honor is Jacob, and another unto dishonor. All right, so are the same mother, are the same father and mother. All right, Isaac and Rebekah. Okay, came what? Two vessels, Jacob and Esau. Okay, Jacob the vessel of honor, and Esau the vessel unto dishonor. Okay, and why did the Lord do it? What if the Most High willing to show His wrath? The Most High wants to show power. You see, the Most High wanted to show power. You see, that's why. You know, the Lord wanted to show that power, man. And that's why He got Esau hardened. That's why He got Esau rebelling. And that's why He got Esau on this crash mission, man. The Lord got Esau on the crash mission, man. Okay, and we get to watch this nigga crash, man. We're watching this nigga hit the guardrails, trying to keep control, you know, going from one guardrail to the other one. And then he had the car in the middle of the road for a minute, like he got it figured out, like, yeah. And this nigga hit another guardrail, you know, it's another turn come that he didn't expect, you know. There you go, man. You see? So we're watching this nigga crash out, man. We're watching this nigga crashing out, man. Okay? This nigga don't got it, man. This nigga set up for the biggest failure on earth. The biggest failure in existence is Esau, man. Okay? It's going to be a hard fall, man. Okay? It said, what if the Most High willing to show His wrath and to make His power known, endured with much long suffering, the vessels of wrath fitted to destruction. Okay? The vessels of wrath fitted to destruction, which that's Esau. Okay? Esau is that vessel of wrath that's fitted for destruction, man. He's customized to play his role as the wicked and for the Most High to show His wrath, to show His power on this nigga, man. Okay? So going back to it, you know, and I have to do a part two more than likely. Okay? Well, when you go here, Ecclesiastes is the book of Ecclesiastes 6 and 10. It said everything has already been decided. It was known long ago what each person would be. So there's no use arguing with the Most High about your destiny, man. It's already mapped out. You know, the Lord already got it figured out. You see, everybody's in their role. Everybody's role being amplified. Okay, if you're a scoffer, you're going to scoff more. All right. If you're the wicked, you're going to be more wicked and rebellious. Okay. And if you're the prophets, you're going to prophesy more, man. You're going to believe more. And we of the hopeful elect going to believe more. So everybody in their lane doing exactly what the Lord wants them to do, man. All right. So I'll leave it there. You know, well, we'll be getting into another lesson with that same precept. We're going to get some more examples all right design, but you know, Lord will you brothers, all right, and you few sisters edified once again. We'll give all praise and honor and glory to Yahweh by Hashem, Yahweh Shai by Hashem, the Kakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers. And peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful. Shalom.